If you're a parent of a toddler, I'm willing to bet you're pretty tired. But what if I told you that the nightly struggle to get your little one to sleep is way, way more common than you think? In fact, a huge number of toddlers are right there with you, fighting sleep with everything they've got. Just look at this number, somewhere between 30 and 40%. That's almost half of all toddlers and preschoolers who are dealing with significant sleep problems. So if you feel like you're in the trenches of a nightly battle, you are definitely not alone, not even close. Does that sound painfully familiar? If you're nodding your head right now, you have found your people. Welcome to Sleepedia, a corner of the internet dedicated to the science of sleep and circadian rhythms. Today, we're going to break down exactly why your little one is fighting sleep and, more importantly, what you can actually do about it. So here's the first thing we really need to understand. Toddler sleep issues are a completely different ballgame than infant sleep issues. You know, a baby might wake up because they're hungry or have a tummy ache. It's usually physiological. But a toddler, their sleep challenges are so much more complex. They're rooted in their incredible developing brain and their growing awareness of the big world around them. All right, so what exactly do these midnight struggles even look like? Let's get into the what of it all. You probably know these usual suspects all too well. The bedtime that takes forever, waking up over and over again all night, the naps that they just refuse to take, and that clinginess. The clinginess that seems to hit its peak the second you try to sneak out of the room. And let's be real, these aren't just little hiccups. They can throw the entire family's well-being totally out of whack. So why is this all happening? Well, our first big why is all about what's going on inside that amazing little head of theirs. And here's a hint. It's not them being defiant, it's just development at work. The main culprit here is separation anxiety. This is a completely normal, healthy developmental stage where a child gets really distressed when you, their safe person, their anchor, leaves. And guess when it usually peaks? Right between 1 and 2 years old. It's no coincidence that this is often when bedtime turns into a major battleground. And here is the fascinating science behind it. A toddler's brain is still under construction, especially the part that gets object permanence. That's the concept that things still exist even when you can't see them. So when you walk out of their room, their brain can't fully compute that you're coming back. To them, out of sight can genuinely feel like gone forever. And can you imagine how terrifying that must feel? So how do we fight that fear? Well, we do it by building up their security during the day. First, set aside time for focused, quality playtime. Phones down, just you and them. Second, encourage them to explore on their own while you're still in the room. This builds up their confidence. And third, practice little separations. Games like peekaboo or even just saying, "Mommy's going to the kitchen for a glass of water, I'll be right back." These teach their brain that you always return. Okay, so we've covered the internal stuff happening in their brain. Now let's talk about the second big why, the external world, which for a toddler has suddenly become this massive, exciting, and, really distracting place. Think about it. The moment they learn to walk and run, their senses are just on fire. They are so much more sensitive to everything. Lights outside the window, sounds from downstairs, even a new toy in the corner of their room. In fact, research shows that big changes, like starting daycare, can increase night wakings by as much as 30%. Their world is changing, and their sleep reflects that. And this chart really brings the point home about overstimulation. You know that fun, rowdy wrestling match before bed? It seems like a great way to tire them out, but it can actually delay sleep by up to 20 minutes. And screen time? Even more of a problem. That blue light from tablets and phones can push their bedtime back even further. So what's the solution? You want to create a sleep sanctuary before bed. This means no wild, vigorous play for at least an hour before you want them to sleep, and absolutely no screens for at least 30 minutes. Instead, the focus should be on a super consistent, calming routine. Think a warm bath, their favorite story, a quiet song. These things are like signals to your toddler's brain that it's time to power down. All right, our next section dives into a really tricky phase. I like to call it the in-between stage. This is where your kids' energy levels feel sky high, but their actual sleep needs are totally out of sync. Just take a look at this timeline. At age 1, they need a whole lot of sleep, between 11 and 14 hours. By the time they're 5, that drops to about 10 or 11 hours, and naps are usually a thing of the past. But that period right in the middle, from about 2 to 4, that's the tough part. They have just enough energy to fight a nap, but not quite enough stamina to make it through the whole day without becoming a total wreck. And this brings us to the great paradox of toddler sleep. You would think that skipping a nap would make them crash harder at night, right? Nope! It actually does the opposite. It often leads to them becoming overtired. An overtired kid isn't sleepy. They're wired, fussy, and out of control. And studies show that this state can ironically increase how often they wake up at night by about 20%. It's so counterintuitive. Okay, we have covered the what and the why. Now for the part you've been waiting for, the how. Let's pull all of this together into a clear, actionable game plan. So, here's your cheat sheet. To tackle that separation anxiety, focus on building security and connection during the day. To fight environmental overstimulation, create that predictable, calming evening routine. And to manage those tricky nap transitions, insist on a quiet rest time even if they don't actually fall asleep. It still gives their body and brain a chance to recharge. And please remember this. The goal here is not to magically create a perfect sleeper or to get rid of every single challenge overnight. It's really about building skills and confidence in both you and your child to navigate these bumps in the road together. It is all about progress, not perfection. So, I want to leave you with this one thought to chew on. How can we start to reframe bedtime? How can we transform what feels like a nightly battle of wills into a predictable, loving moment of connection? That shift in perspective can make all the difference.